Hi guys, and welcome back to a new video. There is a worldwide problem of misinterpreting and glorifying Islam as a religion, and any attempt to criticize this religion is seen as bigotry and Islamophobia. And India, where Muslims are the second largest majority, is also affected by this. But if you read the Quran and the Hadiths and understand the basic tenets of Islam, it is very evident that this religion asks Muslims to wage war against the non-believers or the kafirs and to convert as many people as possible into this religion and bring the entire world under one caliphate. We also know that it was such a motive that brought Islam to India in the first place. Islamists from the 7th century onwards wanted to capture the world and bring it under the glory of Islam. So it came to India through the Sindh region in the 12th century. Muhammad of Ghazni, whom we all know, was loyal to the caliphate in Turkey, and he was a devout Sunni. Muhammad of Ghazni led insertions deep into India as far as Mathura, Kannauj and Somnath. In 1018, he laid waste to the city of Mathura, which was ruthlessly sacked, ravaged, desecrated and destroyed. In 1018, Muhammad also captured Kannauj, the capital of Gurjara Pradharas, and then converted the Chandelas, from whom he obtained a payment of tribute. In 1026, he raided and plundered the Somnath temple, took away a booty of 20 million dinars. The historical accounts of conflicts between Muslims or the Islamists and other traditions in India, that is Buddhism, Jainism and Hinduism, were constant. But in the textbooks, we learn very little about them or about the great warriors who stood against these violent Islamists. We will look at some of these conflicts and more importantly, how the academic historians of our times try to justify such conflicts. Kurids followed the Ghaznavids to North India. In 1206, Delhi Sultanate was established by the slaves of Kurid dynasty. Its first ruler was the Turk Mamluk or slave Qutb al-Din Aibak. Four more dynasties of Delhi Sultanates followed, after which the Mughal Empire was established in the 16th century. The first ruler of the Mughal Empire was Babur, a warrior chieftain from the present-day Uzbekistan. These invasions changed the course of Indian history and civilization. They brought Islam to this land, led to the development of Hindustani languages, and also the evolution of Indian architecture on the basis of Islamic architecture. But they are also responsible for a lot of harm and destruction to the existing culture and traditions of the land. I've made a video on how much destruction the Islamic invasions have caused to the other traditions and cultures. I will share the link here. Please check it out once this video is done. But this destruction is justified by the eminent historians or the academic historians. The two major rationalizations that they give are the Hindu rulers also destroyed Hindu temples, and also that Islamic rulers built temples. They claim that the temple desecration under Muslim rule in India was a continuation of the policy of ruling dynasties pursued in the pre-Islamic period. Hindu kings, victorious in battles, plundered the temples of the defeated kings, fretted away the deities installed there, and in extreme cases even broke them. They essentially say that the king and the god residing in that land has a shared sovereignty over the land. The king is only legitimized by the deity in that place. So by removing the deity, they are actually breaking down existing authority of this defeated king. And historians claim that this is the only reason behind Islamic rulers destroying and desecrating temples. The other claim, as I said before, was that Muslim rulers sometimes sanctioned and helped build temples, and that should obviously signify communal harmony. When I was studying in tests about all this, I also used to subscribe to these two rationalizations. These rationalizations were often pitted against the Hindutva propaganda that Islamic invasion tried to destroy the cultural fabric and establish Islamic rule in the subcontinent. But two historical accounts that I myself came across changed this belief. One is the destruction of Nalanda University, and second, the Mapla massacre of 1921. Many historians consider that the destruction of temples, monasteries, centers of learning at Nalanda and northern India are responsible for the demise of ancient Indian scientific thought in mathematics, astronomy, alchemy, and anatomy. We had unparalleled information about so many philosophies and sciences which were completely burned down. Minhaj-e-Siraj wrote in his book about thousands of monks being burned alive and thousands beheaded as Khilji tried his best to uproot Buddhism and plant Islam by the sword. The burning of the library continued for several months, and the smoke from the burning manuscripts hung for days like a dark pall over the low hills. The Mopla massacre happened in 1921 in Kerala, which is my state. In 25th September 1921, 38 Hindus were slaughtered and thrown in a well by a Muslim mob demanding a caliphate in Malabar. Mopla Muslim community of Malabar had for 100 years indulged in bouts of murderous rage against Kafirs. The genocide of Hindus in August-September 1921 was different because the Muslims thought that they would oust the British and establish an Islamic state. According to widely believed numbers, over 10,000 Hindus were slaughtered by Muslim fanatics. The atrocities against women and children that happened during the Mopla massacre is extremely terrifying. When we hear about these kinds of cruelties and mass murders and genocides happening, the logic that some Muslim rulers also built temples falls right on its face. Also, if a ruler of any tradition or culture called for genocides, went on a rampage of bloodshed and destruction, they wouldn't be called good leaders, but tyrants. Despite all this, academic historians insist that Islamic invasions were good for our subcontinent, that these tyrannical acts done by the rulers were not as bad as they sound. Now, let's look at the specific claims that academic historians make in order to rationalize and glorify Islamic rule in the medieval India. Aurangazeb is one of the most cruel rulers known to this subcontinent. He is single-handedly responsible for the destruction of an entire city of Kashi, one of the holiest sites according to Hindu faith. But he is often shown as a good figure who did whatever he did out of necessity, not tyranny. His bigotry that he himself admits to in the primary historical sources, and the hostility towards non-Muslims is often termed as a misunderstanding. It's claimed that he also built some temples. He didn't hate music or Sanskrit. He gave employment to Hindus during his reign. So this should mean that he was actually a benevolent and a liberal leader. And this narrative is built only by ignoring thousands of historical accounts of extreme cruelty and bigotry this ruler has done. It's like saying because British built roads and railways in India, they were also benevolent and good rulers. Tipu Sultan is yet another example of such a whitewashing of a tyrannical Islamic ruler. Of course, there are Muslim rulers who have done good in the subcontinent and have actually promoted communal harmony. If there is a ruler who committed bigotry and tyranny outright, we should be able to call it out. Here I'm not just talking about Hinduism, rather about the dharmic traditions or the darshanas and the Gnostic traditions that we had in this land. When the majoritarian politics became prominent, the history of Hinduism got a bit more attention. But the damages the Islamic invasions have done to Buddhism, Jainism and Gnostic traditions are almost completely ignored. Nalanda University is a prime example of that. We really don't learn about it in our schools. Buddhism was wiped out from multiple regions of India as part of these Islamic invasions. This includes Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Kashmir, Bihar, and so on. While the sacked Buddhist viharas, the temples and stupas with little material value survived. After the collapse of monastic Buddhism, Buddhist sites were abandoned or reoccupied by other religious orders. In the absence of viharas and libraries, scholastic Buddhism and its practitioners migrated to the Himalayas, China, and Southeast Asia. The same is the case with Jainism. We also learn very little, if at all anything, about the defenders of these traditions against Islamic invasion. In mainstream history, the only figure we ever talk about is Shivaji, that is Chhatrapati Shivaji. About Shivaji even, we learn very little. The lines of defenders and warriors from the Rajput and Maratha kingdoms are utterly ignored by historians. The Naga Sadhus are another great example of this. So are the Sikh gurus and warriors. We do these people a great disservice by not talking about them and honoring their sacrifices. We learned about the tragic life story of Rani Padmini from the film Padmavat, how a royal escaped marriage from a tyrannical Islamic ruler by killing herself. But academic historians often project interfaith marriages among the royals as a sign of communal harmony. The movie Jodha Akbar is an elucidation of that. But the reality of Akbar and his wives are very different from what is shown in Jodha Akbar. Akbar actually had 35 wives. He had around 300 wives, secondary wives, and concubines in total. These women lived in Akbar's harem, apparently with little outside contact. And according to Akbarnama, by 1592, Akbar had an estimate of 12 Rajput princesses as his wives. They were allowed to retain their faith even after marriage. But does that really mean communal harmony? Or rather, a ruler using his power to recruit women to his harem? Akbar is not the first Islamic ruler to have married from Hindu royalty. Most of these women were either captured in war or given away to the Muslim rulers as peace offerings. Jizya, historically a tax paid by non-Muslim populations to their Muslim rulers. The people who are eligible to pay jizya are called dhimmis, and they enjoy some kind of protection where they live. Basically, it was the amount that the people had to give to the rulers to maintain their right to life and safety in their own lands. Academic historians claim that jizya was also the need of the times and non-discriminatory, sometimes even very benevolent. These rationalizations and justifications have a very important purpose of distorting the history that's right in front of us. Through this glorification, they build a narrative that they can control. We lost so many temples. We lost a very vibrant culture to the violent Islamic invasions that happened in the medieval period. And to this day, there is ongoing communal violence in this land about the lost culture and these lost religious structures. Ayodhya is a prime example of that. And by denying this history, we are just making these communal violences and disharmony even harder to solve. And the Islamists, the Islamic terrorists, are able to play the victim over and over again because this narrative is put in place. First they claim that the history is being distorted by propaganda, and then they play the victim card to get out of any violent and anti-national activities that they do to this day. I really do believe that something needs to be done about this situation. And what would that be? It is to get the history right, without justifications, without rationalizations, without half-truths, without generalizations. Just let the history reach people and let them decide for themselves. Now it's time for you to respond. What do you think should be the right way to go? I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button. And before you go, please do check out my book, I have given the link in the description. It is available on Amazon and Flipkart. Share this video with others and follow me on my Instagram and Facebook pages. The links are given in the description. Thank you and have a great time.